Everyone. My name is Anant, and like all of you, I have chosen Juvo. It's fairly obvious from the case study that Juvo's target of allowing ID scoring, of creating ID scoring, which is going to empower the people who can't actually access any banking services. But the core question that I have attempted in my Capstone project submission is about what's the ambition for Juvo going forward for the future. So in that respect, I think there's some of the concepts that I tackle is probably is very similar to what pretty much everyone else would have tackled, which is understanding what is financial inclusion, what's the problem, and what's next for Juvo. So I personally found it much easier to understand financial inclusion by actually trying to understand its opposite, which is what is exclusion. And exclusion, as I found in one excellent link down there, was really you don't have access to small loans, credit lines, you can't build a credit account, you don't have a secure place, there's no safety or reliability for your money and your payments, and therefore you end up falling prey to unscrupulous lenders. You have no safety net, and you just literally cannot live on a day-to-day basis with no credit or any of those facilities that most of us who are actually holding bank accounts tend to take for granted. It is a massive problem and all over the world, and 1/3 of all adults globally are, or about 1.7 billion adults, are about unbanked, and 200 million businesses lack access to savings and credit. That is a massive, massive issue. There's a corollary. There's an interesting point about how do you access them, and most of them are actually prepaid subscribers of mobiles. So 80% of them, of the mobile subscribers, are prepaid subscribers, and who are anonymous, completely anonymous, who dominate and who are unbanked or underbanked. So how can Juvo help? By actually creating the ID scoring, which is basically a gateway to financial inclusion. So the first step really is to get a transaction account, so they actually have an identity, and then from there on to a proper account, and then onwards to regular account usage. So which then obviously opens up a whole new world of opportunity, from savings and credit to payments and insurance, etc., etc. So Juvo does this, but much like one of the examples that I found. Where I live, which is in Hong Kong, a company called Oriente, which is doing much the same thing. And apparently one of the co-founders of Oriente, Jeffrey Prentice, used to be a co-founder of Skype, was at least a co-founder of Skype. So what does Juvo do? I think like pretty much everybody has done, you've probably found out about FlowLend, the app, which starts to open up and create a new credit history, a new financial record and relationship with these prepaid mobile subscribers. So how does it work? Basically, that's how it really works. They work together with the telcos and to use AI to tap into the prepaid subscriber data and use that to develop the identity score. Now, their proposed expansion plans is to use that identity score and the data that they have to offer personal loans and or personal banking products in the immediate term and expand into a wider suite of banking products. Now, how should they go about doing this, and how do we evaluate this? And the question in the capstone was, should they go it alone or should they go in partnership? I personally think they should do it in partnership. I mean, if their expertise is in AI-based analysis, this kind of results in some kind of a qualification of that underbanked or unbanked, and this opens up a new pathway. So it's a qualification, much like you get in from universities and colleges, etc., that open up employment opportunities for a lot of us. And similarly, it's a similar kind of structure. So do the universities actually go about offering direct jobs to graduates? No, they don't. They actually give you the qualification, and then off you go. So I think my recommendation obviously is much the same, and say, please don't. I wouldn't say Juvo should actually start to set up a bank on their own, but it's much better for them to go in partnership with local lenders and bankers in different parts of the world. However, is there another option? And I think is there a bigger option in terms of, and that's my point about a question of ambition. And can Juvo, I think, play a bigger role by adopting a much wider multi-sided platform model, where they focus on their core competence, which is the identity scoring, and using the identity score, they continually evolve that, but that creates a data platform which can then be used on both sides, producers as well as consumers, to target the regulatory bodies, governments, NGOs, etc., and banks and financial institutions who are keen to tap into this the segment of prepaid subscribers and emerging and the unbanked. So it helps focus Juvo's efforts on research and AI-based learning to continually enhance and upgrade their expertise. So, and if they adopt this platform, I think they can actually have a much bigger impact. That basically they should maintain the core value unit, which is the ID score, and which they can innovate upon and refine for different markets, subscriber profiles, etc. It positions Juvo as an industry standard in credit rating and scoring, and potentially open up much bigger unbanked populations when they go in partnership. They can create a much bigger impact by fostering the network effect. So in sum, I think basically, if they have to choose to go into this financial products, it's best that they go in partnerships so that they limit the exposure for the business model. I believe, however, the alternative, which is to actually focus on innovating the ID score, but establishing a platform model, which is a slightly different approach, will help them create a network effect, which means they can create a greater impact, command greater influence, and ultimately fame for setting new industry standards. Thank you very much. That brings me to the end of this. I do hope you enjoyed it.